24. Apostasy. Hebrews 10:26-39. For if we sin wilfully after that we have received the knowledge of truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins, but a certain fearful looking for of judgment and fiery indignation, which shall devour the adversaries. He that despised Moses' law died without mercy under 2 or 3 witnesses. Of how much sorer punishment, suppose ye, shall he be thought worthy, who hath trodden under foot the Son of God, and hath counted the blood of the covenant, wherewith he was sanctified, an unholy thing, and hath done despite unto the Spirit of grace? For we know him that hath said, Vengeance belongeth unto me, I will recompense, saith the Lord. And again, the Lord shall judge his people. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. But call to remembrance the former days, in which, after ye were illuminated, ye endured a great fight of afflictions, partly whilst ye were made a gazing stock, both by reproaches and afflictions, and partly whilst ye became companions of them that were so used. For ye had compassion of me in my bonds, and took joyfully the spoiling of your goods, knowing in yourselves that ye have in heaven a better and an enduring substance. Cast not away therefore your confidence, which hath great recompense of reward. For ye have need of patience, that, after ye have done the will of God, ye might receive the promise. For yet a little while, and he that shall come will come, and will not tarry. Now the just shall live by faith, but if any man draw back, my soul shall have no pleasure in him. But we are not of those who draw back unto perdition, but of them that believe to the saving of the soul. Hebrews 10:26-39. The reference in verse 26 is to Deuteronomy 17:2-7, the law of apostasy. Apostasy is treason. The apostate referred to in Deuteronomy 17:2-7 was a man in the covenant who renounced it for another allegiance, and the penalty was death. The covenant was far more than an ecclesiastical membership or a citizenship in a nation. It was a state of grace whereby a man had been given status in God's kingdom to live in his grace and by his law. To reject the covenant was to choose an allegiance to a power working against God and his reign. Therefore, quote, For if we sin wilfully after that we have received the knowledge of truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins, but a certain fearful looking for of judgment and fiery indignation, which shall devour the adversaries. Truth, in verse 26, refers to the Lord's commandments, as in Isaiah 26:10. Modern man's idea of truth is Hellenic. It is an abstraction, an idea, whereas the Bible sets forth the fact that truth is God and his word, his law, justice, uprightness, and purpose. To sin against the truth is here to sin against Christ and his atonement. If the Hebrews prefer the temple sacrifices and services to Christ's atonement, no atonement is possible for them. Rather, they face God's judgment and, quote, fiery indignation, end quote, for despising the Son. The enemies of Jesus Christ and his atonement shall be, quote, devoured, end quote, by God's judgment. In verse 28, the reference is again to Deuteronomy 17:2-7. The apostate receive no mercy because theirs is a sign of treason with knowledge. The reason for sin is not a lack of knowledge, but an insistence on being judge over God and on being one's own God. The deliberateness of apostasy makes it all the more fearful a sin, according to verse 29. Quote, Of how much sorer punishment, suppose ye, shall he be thought worthy, who hath trodden under foot the Son of God, and hath counted the blood of the covenant, wherewith he was sanctified, an unholy thing, and hath done despite unto the Spirit of grace? Apostasy is a sin of staggering dimensions and consequences. As Westcott pointed out, quote, The act of contemptuous rejection rests on a deliberate judgment, end quote, about the blood of the covenant, about Jesus Christ. Joined with this is a basic hostility towards God the Father. Hebrews is graphic in describing the apostate's contempt. They have, in effect, trodden underfoot Christ's atoning blood. They have counted the blood of the covenant, quote, an unholy thing, end quote. The word counted means that a deliberate decision and judgment are involved. Moreover, they have insulted, quote, the Spirit of grace, end quote. Christ's blood is the blood of the covenant. It is thus the holiest of all things holy, and to show disrespect for it by preferring the blood of bulls and goats is an act of fearful arrogance and sin. We dare not forget that in Deuteronomy 32:35, God declares vengeance to be his prerogative, and in Psalm 54 we are told that God will judge his people. God does not forget judgment with the coming of Jesus Christ. Rather, there is now a sharper promise of judgment. It is therefore, quote, a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. Verse 31, compare Luke 12:5. The authors, led by Paul, now turn to pleading with their readers by reminding them of their past faithfulness. First, after joining themselves to Christ's flock, quote, ye endured a great fight of afflictions, verse 32. Quote, fight of afflictions, end quote, may refer to the actual presence of some arena events. Second, many of them either suffered for their faith or were, quote, companions of them that were so used, verse 33. To be, quote, made a gazing stock, end quote, means to be exhibited in the arena, a grim fact. Third, and here Paul speaks out clearly, they are reminded of how they, quote, joyfully, end quote, sacrificed their goods out of compassion and apparently to rescue Paul. They did this, quote, knowing in yourselves that ye have in heaven a better and an enduring substance, verse 34. One would think that with such a record these Hebrews would stand fast. But in 2 Timothy 4:10, we read that Demas, long a faithful co-worker with Paul, Colossians 4:14, Philemon 24, forsook Paul, quote, having loved this present world, end quote. It's not always easy to know what is in men, and men often do not know themselves. Paul, in his personal note, adds, verses 35 to 39, their holy boldness should not now be replaced with doubt, fear, and panic. Patience in the will of God will lead to great returns in God's time, verse 36. They must do the will of God to receive the promise. Isaiah 26:20 and Habakkuk 2:3 are now cited together with verses 36 and 37 to encourage the readers and listeners in faith and patience. They are then reminded that the just, or the justified, live by faith, not by sight. God has no pleasure in those who turn back, who apostatize. Verse 38. Then the writers, quote unquote, we, declare that, as for themselves, they are not drawing back, quote, unto perdition, end quote, for such is the consequence of going back to the temple, its priesthood, and its sacrifices. Quote, we, end quote, say the writers, are, quote, of them that believe to the saving of their soul, end quote, verse 39. This very blunt statement obviously denies that two ways to God, Jesus Christ and the temple, exist. The Hebrews are plainly told that salvation is by Christ alone. Very early, Peter had declared, quote, neither is there salvation in any other, for there is none other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved. Acts 4:12. To deny the exclusiveness of Christ is apostasy. Thus, Hebrews not only irrevocably ties Christ's kingship to his high priestly office, requiring of us service to manifest our obedience to the king, but also declares him alone to be man's saviour. Having established these premises, Hebrews then goes on in chapter 11 to define and illustrate faith. Faith with works and action. Faith as a God-ordained and God-governed pilgrimage. Because of its great importance and because of its authorship, Hebrews has a deliberate air to it. Like a symphonic composition, it moves to great climaxes, building from one to another. It is a magnificent work, and hopefully its time has come.